This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast in a world gone mad. I'd like to think it's a little bit of normalcy, but maybe not. Maybe not. We are living in remarkable times.
We certainly are.
As the Japanese proverb would say, may you live in interesting times. And we are.
You can't say they're not. My goodness.
Yeah, and for us on the outside, we're going to talk about all kinds of ways that you can support those in the Ukraine, while at the same time avoiding scammers. Be very careful about emails going out because a lot of people are offering their support, and we're gonna talk about that. But to those who are going through it, hearts go out to all of those in the Ukraine and that whole area, which is just looking like a powder keg. But we're hoping that they can come to some peaceful resolution, because as we're speaking, apparently they're talking, right? They're having, which is very early. I'm surprised that the discussions are going on this early, because there didn't seem to be any great emphasis on talking before this. And after only 4 days, they want to talk about it, which does not look good on Russia at this point. I mean, nothing has made Russia look good in any of this.
My hope is that, yes, they thought one thing and it didn't happen, so now let's talk. I want to believe that they felt they could go in and it'd be done within a day.
Yep.
And now it isn't. So now, yes, they're going to talk. I hope that's what is happening, that the bluff has been called and now he's got to backtrack a bit or find another solution to what he has started. I really hope that it's not a ploy.
Mm-hmm.
Setting people up, setting up the situation to add further.
Yeah, I think it's a little late for that too. That's a tough plan to put into place.
It is, but I don't want guards to fall here. I don't. You know what I mean?
That's conspiracy theory stuff.
Possibly with him though. I think it's clear that you do need to keep your guard up. You need to be. Yeah. You can't give an inch. You have to stay strong.
It's easy for me sitting here in Belleville, Ontario, Canada to say this, but I would hope that at this point, the leader of Ukraine, who has already won the Nobel Peace Prize in my mind, and Times Newsmaker of the Year, and his line is the line of the year. I don't need a ride, I need ammo. That's the line of the year. I don't need a ride out, I need ammo. We'll sit down at the table and say, so when you leave, we're going to want $1 billion. So that when Putin says, no, we're going to negotiate the peace, it's like, no. You're going to give me everything I want for you coming to invade my country, which will prevent me from not being mad at you anymore. Or you can just keep coming in here and I'll continue to embarrass you on the world stage, right? Like, I don't know what position of strength Russia at this point, other than their enormity, thinks that they can negotiate their way out of this and save face. I don't understand that.
I question and I say really it's one man. I question his vision of how this was going to go from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like, what did he think was going to happen, that he would hold a press conference and warn the world and the world would back off? Be like, oh, okay, here you go. I don't know what his thinking is.
I think historically
and that's what has
happened.
me worried, though, too, because to me it seems so obvious. Yeah. Like, of course people are going to push back. Of course they're going to rally. What did you think was going to happen? So then it's kind of like, what did you think what is up your sleeve, sir? So it's
1938 with Hitler, they appeased him. We'll give you what you want, then you'll settle down. 1963, Russia went to Czechoslovakia, nobody batted an eye. Not this time.
No, because it doesn't work. Yeah. It really doesn't work. And I've seen that too several times, the parallels drawn between what we've been through, what is part of our history, and what's happening right now. And it is scary. You keep hearing that too, how scary it is. It is scary.
It's very scary because you can see it now. You can see the bombed out areas when they said, no, we're not going to target civilian areas. Well, point it out, and there it is. But there's video of a missile hitting an apartment building. Yeah.
That's not something out in the middle of a field away from an urban center. That's right in the heart of it.
Yeah.
Those are civilians that you're attacking.
And that's the beauty of having the internet. There's all kinds of bad reasons, but you can't hide it now, because now the world
sees it.
Their eyeballs are in the Ukraine, not just on it looking at a map, which I love to do. And I did that. I
had
went
to
through
too.
Europe. I wanted to see Being geographically, it's not as large as Canada, but there are more people living in Ukraine than there are living in Canada.
I didn't think it was as big as it is. I thought it was
45 million
smaller.
people
Yep.
to our roughly 35 million people. So there are more people living in the Ukraine. And where it is geographically, along with other countries, now far away from things like, Finland and all of the others who have had to endure hundreds of years. If it wasn't Germany, it was, Russia. They're all right there. Nothing new to them. And I think, as a lot of it when I read it is you're right. Yeah, we've been through this a few times with a number of wars, and we know what works and what doesn't work. And appeasing never works because they don't stop.
No.
So you got to stop them. First time they decide to start, you just got to stop them. And the whole world is backing them right now. And that's remarkable to see. Not
to make light of it, but it's like dealing with a small child. And I've seen that analogy used too. If a small child threw a tantrum and when they start to get aggressive and go after things, you nip it in the bud. Because otherwise that behavior becomes learned and they continue. No, you say no right off the hop, no, and move on. And then they know you can't do that.
So the ruble went for a dump. So their money is, not worthless. I think it dropped 40%. Could you imagine if the Canadian dollar, could you imagine if that dropped to 40 cents or something?
Oh my gosh.
And then their stock market was kind of hacked anyway, but they suspended that. They didn't even open because it would have just gone down the toilet, would have just been a dumper. So to save as much of their economy as they could, did they really think this was going to happen after 5 or 6 days? No, because then they wouldn't have done it. But boy, what a wake-up call. Good for the world. Good for the world.
I really feel for the people in Russia, though. I do, because the feeling coming out is it's not the country of Russia, the people in the country of Russia that have pushed for this, that have wanted it. We've heard reports that they didn't even know their troops, their family members were going to be doing this. That's the soldiers themselves. There's been reports they didn't know where they were going or what exactly the mission was. And we've seen it around the world. Here in Canada themselves, Russian immigrants or with ties to Russia are protesting it too. And I feel for them because that's who's going to suffer too. It's not just people of Ukraine, but people in Russia are going to suffer from all of these sanctions and the stock market and the dollar dropping and all the rest. They're going to have to live through this as well. People who had no say, who aren't backing what their president is doing and who are actually against it. Now they're going to have to pick up the pieces after when this is over.
Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Russians taking to the streets to protest. Almost 8,000 got arrested on the weekend. For protesting, and they know that in Russia, if I protest, I will get arrested. With all due respect, everything happened in Ottawa. In Russia, if you go out and protest again, they did it anyway, and their lives weren't on the line. They're the aggressor, and yet they've had enough of watching what their government does to other people. It's not even to them.
No,
and 8,000,
they're making
hundreds
it
of
clear
thousands.
they don't. They're against it.
So it is remarkable. Here in Canada, LCBO is dropping Russian vodka. And it does sound like it's a small step,
it's something.
But everybody's doing what they can. And Wayne Gretzky came out and said, you know what, when we restart this World Junior Hockey Championship, no, it's not the hockey players' fault, but Russia, don't bother. Don't come. In fact, we don't want you. He's hoping. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't get to make that decision. But again, when Wayne Gretzky says it, I think a lot of hockey people sit up and say,
that's what we have to do. And I say that I feel for the people in Russia, but that's what has to happen, guys.
Yeah.
That line has to be hard, and it has to be consistent, and it has to come from everybody that nope, you're done. You're out. We're done with you.
Another beauty of that is that's nonviolent. So we're hitting them, the money where, like, for example, I had said it before, I didn't know why they allowed Russian athletes under any other stupid name. We're going to call them, okay, Russia came.
But there it's kind of like, no,
you don't get to come. Yeah. You don't. Well, it's not their fault. Well, then, hey, remember when you were in grade 5 and it wasn't your fault that somebody yipped off, but they all stayed inside at recess? Yep. Then you go over to that person, you say, knock it off. You're ruining it for the rest of us. And until, I guess, people do that, and I know I'm Mr. Geopolitical. No, I get it. It's far more complicated than that. We just, go away. You can't take part. You don't get to.
That was one of the irksome things about the Olympics. Just because they're competing under another name doesn't mean they should be here.
Yeah.
You made the ruling that they did wrong. They're not supposed to be here, and you're still letting them in. And it's that kind of wishy-washiness that leads to.
And I know the Olympics, it's got the corruption rumors and everything tied to Russia. And okay. But this all just shines a spotlight on it where enough's enough, but we need to find a way to do it. If not diplomatically, at least non-violently. And if the whole idea is, we're going to ignore you clowns, and if you start to kick it up again, we're going to get really mad at you. No, we don't want anybody, because we don't want anybody to die.
No.
But we've had enough of it.
Yeah,
it's time for the major big-time intervention. And if it means that everybody that wants to join NATO gets to join NATO, fine, do it. And if you don't like it, too bad. Because when the USSR collapsed, all of those nations wanted to move west. If you're so great and not abusive, like think of a relationship. If you're so non-abusive and so wonderful, why didn't any of them want to go back? There's a reason why.
Why they wanted out and wanted to be a part of
If the Ukraine wants everything that you have, Russia, why do you need to invade them? Why
are they taking up arms now?
Yeah.
When they don't have the army you do. They're outnumbered. But they're making a stand. Why would they do that?
If they're your best friend and want what you have.
And you're trying to protect them and they're the ones that have been the aggressor. Clearly they haven't.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's one of those things too. I can't stop watching though either.
I'm fascinated
want to follow
by it.
and see and read, and you do have to step away at some points just to regroup. But it's so interesting to see.
Somebody brought up the phrase Finlandization. They need to do a Finlandization of Ukraine, and I thought, well, that's got Google written all over it. So I looked it up.
So you Googled it?
Yeah, Finland. And I'm not sure when it started, but they're the best example of it.
Okay.
There's a country that has actively and vocally resisted becoming like Germany or Russia or the major countries around them in order to maintain their own culture and independence.
And how have they done that?
And by actively doing that, they said, don't bother coming here. We're not going to fight you.
But we're not interested.
But we're also not afraid of you, and we're not interested in becoming like you. So don't bother trying to send us your Russian stuff to make us a little bit like Russia, or during the Second World War, making us, even though we're close to Germany, well, there's some stuff we like. No, we don't want any of it. We are Finland and Finland only. So mind your own business. I get it. You're bigger than us and you can beat us up if you want, but we're not interested. And Finland got left alone. So that was their way of saying no. Yeah, so they need to have a Finlandization. Because who wants to attack Finland? Nobody.
Well, yeah.
They're great.
And you're right.
But they made the active point.
It's not on the radar.
Yeah,
it's
they
not
made the active
something
point.
that people talk about.
Much like Switzerland did in the Second World War. It becomes almost a joke of like, oh, they weren't just neutral. They said, they're on Germany's border and said, we want no part of it. That takes guts to be more than neutral. They said, we don't want to be a part of it. And that's the way Finland was. And they think that Ukraine moving forward is, I know we share a border. Now shut up.
Yeah.
That's it.
We're done. It's not going to happen.
We are only geographical neighbors. We are not alike other than our people share geographical cultures. We don't want any part of you if that's the way you're going to be. It's like, and you think of Canada and the United States, we laugh at how there's differences. Like we laugh at our differences.
Yeah, we do.
Rick Mercer goes down to the... the southern United States.
We're clearly different.
Yeah.
We're two separate, different countries.
But we don't fight over our differences to the point where we can't even, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's the point. Like, of course we can be neighbors, but nobody hears that Norway and Denmark don't get along because they share a border. So that's what they talked about, the Finlandization of Ukraine. It was fascinating to read that. I didn't know that about Finland.
So
that's the thing I learned. That out of Europe. It's a long way from being over, I'm sure. This won't be a 7-day war.
No.
But hopefully the fighting does stop very, very soon, and then whatever happens after this.
There have been some interesting conversations with the kids, too.
Yeah.
It's the first time, well, I say that because, yes, my kids are young, and it's the first time we've actually gone through this ourselves. But it kind of took me aback when my children were asking me about it last week. Or making comments. And it's like, whoa, okay. They're of the age now where they're aware of what's going on. So are their friends. So it's It is. We've watched the news more so, I'd say, in the last couple of days than we have recently. And I'm very aware of how they're taking it in. And I've been asking quite often, okay, are you okay? What's your thoughts? How are you feeling about it? What do you see? But they're passively interested, maybe is the way to put it. They're aware of it and they'll glance at it every once in a while and then they go on. And I'm grateful for that because it doesn't seem to be weighing on them.
Right. Yeah.
But it's, as a parent, I'm aware of what's being shown on TV and how much they are getting it. Because you don't want to scare them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also feel they do need to be aware of what's going on and how critical and how quickly things can escalate.
Oh, in this time and age, you can't hide them.
No.
But it reminds me when I was their age, the Vietnam War was on and would be on the news. And even now when I would, read stuff or think about Vietnam and think when I was a child, it's like, that's not what I thought it meant. Like what I thought it was, because there's no internet.
Your perception is.
So I get 15 seconds on the news at night and maybe a newspaper article. There were no 24-hour news channels and around the world and internet coverage.
Yes, the constant bombardment of it.
But the other stuff when you talk about the kids reminds me is 9/11. Because when it was something kids, of course, everybody talked about it, so the kids want to know. The problem they had with watching it on TV as they began to, children, because you have to think like a child, and it's not a criticism, is every time they keep showing it, they think it's happening again. They don't understand that what they're
it's just
seeing.
The same tape.
Right. So if you were to watch the news for 2 hours, you would think you were watching the same attack for 2 hours. I'm not saying it's not going on, but their perception of what they're being shown and what they take in. So, really good idea to sit down and talk about it. And maybe it's not all about watching it on the news. Get the news and then talk about it. Look up a story if you want them to. Show them what children are doing, what the world is doing to help the children. So, because that's what they think. What would kids my age do? Like, if that were me, what would happen to me? It's a natural way for a child to think. These organizations exist to help. Mummies and daddies took their children away. Okay, great. But then what happened to the mummy and the daddy? That's when the tough one comes in.
Well, and the question of fighting too
came
up. Am I going to have to?
Do
I have to go? Because I love how kids talk to each other. Yeah. Because that came up that, you're going to have to. That's what they came home and said. I'm going to have to go.
I'm going to have to go and fight. No,
you're 8. Yeah. You're okay. Don't even go there. If you choose later in life, meaning 10, 12 years from now, totally different if that's what you want to do. But don't, and that's where as a mother I look at it and I think, they shouldn't have to think like this. And then I see the images on TV and I'm like, oh my gosh, those babies shouldn't be going through this. There's no need for it.
Yeah.
There really isn't.
But there it is. Yeah. And so hats off to everybody at CFB Trenton too. I know I've been hearing that the government's going to be airlifting aid. So if it doesn't come directly out of Trenton, it's going to be passing through, and a lot of the logistics will be done from here. So thanks for all you're doing to bring to a swift end and to bring humanitarian relief to those. And there are tens of thousands already of refugees who have streamed over the borders and who will need to find places to live. So that's what I mean. This is going to go on for a while before.
And it really feels like people are opening the doors and the
Yeah.
gates and the borders to let people in, which is wonderful to see too. Canadian Ryan Reynolds, though, actor, and his wife Blake Lively, we saw it through the pandemic how generous they were to help out food banks across both North America, both in the U.S. and here in Canada. They're at it again. The headline this morning, they are going to match donations made to Ukrainian refugees up to $1 million.
$1 million.
So if you make a donation to a reputable charity, and that kind of ties in with the other side that we were talking about this morning, they have pledged to match those donations and make sure that their money's going to a good cause as well. We touched on it a bit last week, where you can make donations, and just to be aware that they won't approach you. 9 times out of 10, no charity will come to you and say, could you donate to this cause that's going on across the world. Just be aware of the spam, the hackers, the emails that you may be getting. And even Meta, which is the umbrella company of Facebook, they have said that they have already caught dozens of fake pro-Russian accounts, groups, and pages across their platforms, already trying to get in there. So it's happening. So just be aware, especially online, of what you're reading, but where you're also putting your support.
Yeah, if you'd like to, say, like through the Red Cross, if they send you an email, it's not the Red Cross. Anybody can copy and paste a logo.
Yeah.
Red Cross will never do that. Or if it does pique your mind or your curiosity, then go to their official website. Don't click on their link and do it that way.
And that's the safest thing to do. Just don't do it.
All bad.
You approach them. You send it to them.
Okay, so join us tomorrow morning. Jay Stewart was our winner this morning with Beat the Bank to $600. Emily's got to play this afternoon. We'll have another one for you tomorrow morning. It's going to be Rumor Day tomorrow morning as well. That's coming up on the show. It's a Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast here wherever you get your podcasts, and linked off of our social media sites for the final day of February, first day of March coming up tomorrow morning. Wake up with Mark and Charity mornings on 95.5 Hits FM.